Diaphragmatic breathing is an incredible tool for so many things, for resetting our physiology, for lowering our stress and anxiety, for calming down when we're feeling angry or overwhelmed. So, diaphragmatic breathing has enormous benefits. I'm going to outline a few of those for you. And then in a follow up video to this, I will be demonstrating how to diaphragmatically breathe. So this is the first video in a 3-week series called the mini series. And I originally published this on a private course site, but I decided to release it on YouTube so more people could have access to these tools. And this little mini series, I call it because it's about relaxing. It's about coming into the moment. If you follow this for 3 weeks, I believe you will feel significantly different and better at the end of those 3 weeks. So I encourage you to implement the strategies I will provide for each week. And the tools that I provide in this mini series, these are super helpful for people who have a lot of anxiety, stress, are feeling overwhelmed. These techniques can also be a precursor to learning to physiologically relax enough to begin to learn to meditate. So I almost call this like a pre-meditation course. So let's talk about the benefits of diaphragmatic breathing. Now, breathing is something that we do automatically, yet we also have control over it. So it's one of the bodily functions that we can both consciously control, and it will happen completely unconsciously. And our breathing varies by activity, right? So if you're an athlete or you've ever done any kind of athletic endeavor, there are different ways to breathe depending upon what you're doing. So if you are running a sprint, there's a particular kind of breathing for that. If you're running long distance, you definitely don't want to be breathing as if you were sprinting. And these are things that we're both taught when we learn sports, and yet they also are somewhat natural. And yet we are rarely taught to breathe so that we can be in a state that is alert but relaxed. Now, how is that for a concept? Alert but relaxed. So I'm going to teach you a diaphragmatic breathing technique that brings you to the alert but relaxed state. And then there are also diaphragmatic breathing techniques that help you relax even further, even to the point of falling asleep. So it's just important to keep in mind that breathing appropriate to the activity that we are doing is super helpful. In order to understand how powerful diaphragmatic breathing can be, I'd like to talk very briefly about our old brain. So we have a fight, flight, freeze center in our amygdala, part of our emotional brain, old brain. And that part of the brain does not have language centers. So that part of the brain does not respond to comments like, relax, it's no big deal, or slow down. That part of the brain can be very, very reactive, very, very fast, and no language centers. It's not responding to any kind of cognitive thought about the situation. It's responding on a survival basis. So when we are feeling stressed and that part of the brain lights up, one of the only ways to communicate with it is through diaphragmatic breathing. Because when that part of the brain starts to react, your breathing will grow more and more shallow, more rapid, and your breathing will reflect that fear center of the brain. Now, because breathing is something that we can control, so it's automatic and it's within our control, we can communicate back to that part of the brain, it's okay, it's okay. Because many of the stressors in our lives, most of the long-term stressors, if not all the long-term stressors in our lives, really require full brain functioning. We think best, we function best, we can plan best, and we are in relationship best when our whole brain is online, not just the fear center. When the fear center is online, we have narrow vision, we care about survival in a very primal way, and we don't really care so much about relationship. And when I say survival in a primal way, I mean immediate, like an immediate way. So that part of our brain is responding to things that are actually not immediate survival threats as if they are. So this can be situations in which we get angry. This can be situations in which we freeze and don't know how to respond. It can be situations in which we feel a need to run away when we really shouldn't, say conflict on the job or a minor conflict with our spouse. So we all have a habitual response. We all have a habitual response to either flee under stress, fight, or freeze. And diaphragmatic breathing helps with all of that. Now, I do have a video, not part of this little mini series, but a video on the triune brain, which explains a little bit more about that aspect if you're interested, and I will link that here. So the other thing that happens when we're under stress is that our adrenaline shoots up, and then our cortisol kicks in to help bring that adrenaline down, right? So you have a shock to your system. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, which is scary. Your adrenaline spikes, your cortisol comes back. Your adrenaline drops, your cortisol drops over time, you're back to a normal state. However, if you are responding continually with a stress response, what's happening is that your adrenaline is shooting up, your cortisol goes up to start bringing that adrenaline down, but before the cortisol can come down, the adrenaline goes up again. And then again, before the cortisol can come down, the adrenaline goes up again. So you end up with elevated cortisol levels, which are being tied to all sorts of chronic diseases. So serious issues can come from a continually elevated cortisol level. So maybe that's the number one benefit of diaphragmatic breathing is it helps us reset. We're always going to have stress in our life, but the diaphragmatic breathing can help us reset and bring that cortisol level down. And while it does that, it also lowers our blood pressure, it lowers our heart rate. So a lot of physical benefits and a lot of mental benefits. So for week 1 of the mini series, I encourage you to practice diaphragmatic breathing 4 times a day, simply for 4 rounds of breath. And I'm going to demonstrate how to do it in the next video, the part 2 of week 1. But for this week, make an effort to set your alarm or do it during your lunchtime, or you can even do it on a bathroom break. And you can do it at any moment. People don't even need to know you are doing it, but just regularly 4 times a day, every day, practice a little bit of diaphragmatic breathing, because what will happen is that over time, that will become a normal way for you to breathe. And as I mentioned, I'm going to demonstrate the way to use diaphragmatic breathing to remain in a relaxed but alert state. So the best for working, studying, taking care of children, taking care of anybody, taking care of yourself. So the relaxed but alert state, and then I'll also demonstrate the diaphragmatic breathing that can help you fall asleep at the end of the night. And just to share the basic concept with you now, if we take diaphragmatic breaths and our out breath and our in breath are the same amount of time, a nice slow flow diaphragmatically, that's the relaxed but alert state. If we extend that exhale longer to 1.5 to 2 times the inhale, that really makes us drowsy. It will begin to make you sleepy. It's good for really calming down if you need to really calm down. It's also good if you want to fall asleep at the end of the day, or you just want to move into a significantly relaxed state, because the exhale stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is the nervous system that helps us relax, helps us fall asleep at the end of the day. The sympathetic nervous system helps us get energized. That's what kicks in the morning, helps you get out of bed when you're hungry, right? Hunger is a little bit of a stress, or needing to do something, right? Little tiny minor helpful types of stress, right? That stimulates and is stimulated by the sympathetic nervous system. So the in-breath is the sympathetic nervous system, the out-breath is the parasympathetic. Keeping those in balance keeps you relaxed but alert. Extending one or the other puts you more into that state. All right, I hope this was helpful. Leave me comments, let me know. Make sure to watch the video demonstrating diaphragmatic breathing and put it into place this week, and let me know at the end of the week what happens. And then next week, I will share the second technique that goes with the mini series. Just a quick note, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, give this video a like, because that helps a lot. My mission on YouTube is to bring tools, techniques, theories, thoughts that will help people live more joyful lives.